By now, you've all heard of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0, the latest book published by Mama Jumbo Shrimp. It's more than just another wine book. The fully updated second edition was inspired by students of the Vinitaly International Academy and painstakingly reviewed and revised by an expert panel of certified Italian wine ambassadors from across the globe. The book also includes an edition by Professore Attilio Scienza, Italy's leading vine geneticist. The benchmark producers feature is a particularly important aspect of this revised edition. The selection makes it easier for our readers to get their hands on a bottle of wine that truly represents a particular grape or region. To pick up a copy, just head to Amazon.com or visit us at MamaJumboShrimp.com.
Welcome to Masterclass US Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. This show has been designed to demystify the US market for Italian wineries through interviews with experts in sales and distribution, social media, communications, and so much more. We will quiz each of our esteemed guests at the end of each episode to solidify the lessons that we've learned. So sharpen your pencils, get out your notebooks, and join us each week to learn more about the US market. Hello, my name is Juliana Colangelo, and I'm the host of the Masterclass US Wine Market, a brand new series on the Italian Wine Podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome to the show Jermaine Stone. Bronx native, Jermaine spent his life entrenched in hip-hop, but found an interest in fine wine while packing boxes in the shipping department for Zachys wine auction. He later grew to create their global logistics presence while honing his skills as the first Black commercial auctioneer. In 2013, he became one of the founding directors and auctioneers for the auction department of LA retail giant Wally's. Throughout his 17-year career, Jermaine has worked with various clients across all facets of the wine industry, developing his skills in business operations, marketing, brand partnerships, and content creation. Today, Jermaine is the head of Crew Love Selections, a New York-based creative agency dedicated to blending the cultures of wine and hip-hop. You can find Jermaine on Instagram at Wine and Hip Hop Show. Welcome to today's show, Jermaine. It's great to have you.
Ooh, hello. Thank you for having me. I mean, I hear that intro. I'm looking around like, damn, who's this dude?
I know.
I
it's
want to
pretty
meet him.
impressive.
I didn't know that was me for a second.
Yeah, I know. It's always a good way to stop and reflect, right? So,
Like, wow.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that part. Oh, cool.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, your bio and background, it is so interesting and impressive to see where you started and where you've come today. So talk us through a little bit more about what you're doing today with Crew Love Selections and how you made that transition from the world of auctions with Zachys and Wally's to the work you're doing today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. One, thank you for having me. I love having opportunities like this, but it's really interesting. I started out making music, focusing on just being a hip hop artist, and organically that's so similar to just content creation. It's me trying to express my creativity. So I always had a bit of that in me all throughout my time in wine auction. And then after I left Zachys and transitioned to Wally's, I really got to grab that entrepreneurial side of the business. Working at Zachys gave me such a huge foundation and literally taught me everything I know about the wine business. And working at Wally's, I was really able to scratch that entrepreneurial itch. And, after things transitioned with Wally's, I was pretty much put in a position like I needed to move to Los Angeles if I wanted to keep my job with the company.
Right.
Which, it just wasn't an option for me at the time. My mom was sick with stage 4 cancer. So I needed to find a way to still stay in the universe of those wine auction clients while staying unique to myself. It's really expensive to market yourself as a consultant for multi-million-dollar clients. So I started the podcast. A friend of mine, Levy Dalton, just said, lean into who you are. And I knew that what made me unique was my background in hip hop, the friends that I still had in hip hop, and then also that background in wine and the friends I had in wine. So I saw a lot of opportunities with just bringing those worlds together. So what started from me, putting this podcast out as a way to stay in front of my wine auction clients,
right.
I always wanted to slowly pivot over to be able to consult for a much larger group and community, which is ultimately what Crew Love does today. I used to consult on just back-end business operations and logistics, but now I, consult with companies like Constellation Brands, approaching different sales techniques and ways that they can communicate with today's customer.
Right.
So I'm able to consult in a much broader space, consulting and working with different wine regions and countries. Again, finding ways to communicate between wine and hip hop.
Right.
Essentially what I saw the opportunity to do. And it's just been a slow growth in being able to do that.
Right. Well, that's really exciting. I mean, to also, and interesting to hear how you move kind of from understanding all those back end operations to now working more on the content piece, the marketing side, and like you mentioned, consulting with clients to reach new consumers. And in today's episode, what I want to focus on with you and for our listeners is how creative content and some of the work you're doing with Crew Love Selections can help the wine industry and specifically Italian wineries reach new audiences in the U.S. market. So that's what we're going to focus on for today. I'm really excited to dive into it. But before we start, I just want to share what our 3 key takeaways for today's episode are and what we're really going to focus on for our listeners. So number one, the importance of incorporating elements of pop culture into content creation in order not only to educate consumers about wine, but reach new consumers in an interesting and compelling way. And here's where we're really excited to learn more about how you're doing that with hip hop. Number two, what are the key elements of truly compelling video content? We hear out there all the time for social media, video is king, video, but what actually makes great video content? Because you're creating amazing content. So I want to hear some of your secrets. And then number three, how to maintain authenticity to yourself while you're promoting others and working with clients. Like you said, you bring something unique to the industry with your background in hip hop. How do you remain unique to that background while at the same time working with some of these great clients you're working with? So super excited to dive in and let's get to it because we've got a lot to cover.
Awesome.
All right. So just to get started, with Crew Love, you talk about blending the best elements of wine and hip hop culture. Talk to us a little bit about what that means to you and what do you see as some of the most relevant similarities and differences between the two categories of wine and hip hop?
Yeah, when some people think about hip hop, they think about the streets, they think about, many people think about the violence in hip hop, but really hip hop for many people is a way to communicate. So for example, hip hop being so aspirational, many of the luxuries in life, people that come from my community, they learn about that through hip hop. The guys on Fordham Road weren't selling Balenciaga. They learned about that through rap. So, and it creates such an affinity for it. And when I noticed certain artists and the mention of wine in hip hop has always happened from
Right.
Jay-Z making plays on words from about wine tastings to Nas talking about crushed grapes. This is a narrative that's been through hip hop, but around, I'd say like 2006, it became a bit more specific where Jay-Z wasn't just talking about the Audemars watch, he was talking about Petrus. And I saw that as something that was, Jay-Z's everyone's big brother. So I knew that there was just going to be much more and more of that. And, you look at the trajectory between then and now. But so just similarly, so we relate in the sense of hip hop being aspirational. We all like
Right.
luxury goods, and many people see wine as that luxury thing. However, hip hop is the epitome of attainable luxury. We talk about these same guys with Balenciaga. I mean, I trust me, it looks crazy to see that on the corner sometimes, but that's really what it is. And that's communicated through hip hop. So I think that aside from that, there's a mindset that's similar. There's that entrepreneurial mindset that carries throughout wine. You are speaking many times directly to the families that are making this wine. It isn't just what you pick up in the store. So everybody in the wine industry is an entrepreneur, and in hip hop, it's very similar. But also these are both two very, very deep and passionate cultures which tell a story of the land. And I think that that's the biggest similarities, but overall, you can find many relations in just the way that people approach their passion.
Yeah, I think those examples are great and the things I never really thought about. So I was super excited to hear how you would answer this question. But I think that passion for storytelling, passion for the land, entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, yeah, those are elements that we talk about all the time in the wine industry. And as you explained, are so relevant in hip hop culture as well. What would you say are maybe some of the differences or areas where you see there maybe is a need to reconcile the two areas?
Yeah, well, with regard to where hip hop and wine don't necessarily connect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, it's even down to just language. Where we start off not speaking the same language in many ways. And something that I think blocks a lot of people out of wine is that, no one likes to feel stupid,
Right.
and so often when you're around people that know so much about wine, it can be very intimidating. And then when you can't speak the language or read the labels, it can be very intimidating. But something that I've seen by being on both sides is that's true for both things.
Good point.
If I'm coming into the hip hop world from a wine perspective, I don't understand what these guys are saying. I'm quote unquote not cool. It that we all come into different things with our own insecurities. I think something that's helped me to stay true to who I am and be comfortable in rooms where I'm different is understanding that everyone in this room has some sort of insecurity.
Yeah.
It's just, are you going to let that dictate the way that this event goes or not? That's up to you. Securities. Got to ride the wave.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's great life advice for anyone for sure. So you mentioned, something about no one wants to feel stupid and wine can be intimidating, these labels, especially Italian wine, right? There's hundreds of different varieties and the way the labels are written, it's not always easy to understand what's actually in the bottle. But I think something you do so interestingly with Crew Love is making wine more approachable through content. So one example that I love is you have these tasting notes from the street episodes where you're pairing street food with wine. And you have one episode where you paired an Etna Rosso with a slice of New York pizza, very different from Italian pizza, right? Both delicious, though. But can you just talk us through a little bit? What's your approach to this type of content, and what do you think it accomplishes for the viewer?
Well, I think that so one of the ways that I approach wine is I try to speak in as broad of strokes as possible. You'll notice that I'm not talking about the varietals. It's I'm speaking about the area, and many times people think that the name that they see on the label is the name of what they're drinking. They're not understanding the geographical aspect to it. So I think that a show like Tasting Notes from the Streets, and for me, honestly, being from the Bronx and going into the wine industry, many areas that I learned about in wine, I didn't know existed. So,
Yeah.
and you have to get super granular with wine, and you also get to know the people a little better. You get to know the culture a little bit better,
Right.
all just based on the rules of the winemaking in the region, So I think that highlighting that just makes wine that much more approachable. Like, let me not I don't sell people on wine. I introduce them to culture. So often, how many people do you know that are really going to be able to break down all the nuances in wine? More often than not, people can just tell you if they like it or not. So I try to meet people where they are and take things in phases. Start out by speaking in broad strokes, like, Etna Rosso, and then highlighting something cool and very approachable about it. The fact that it's grown on the side of an active volcano. Like, wow, wine from an active volcano. Now you're interested in what this story is about. Now you've seen the story. So you think about wine the same way you think about business.
Right.
People like to do business with people that they enjoy working with, So, and how are you going to attract that person? It starts with a story. So, you know, they might just kind of like it, but because they like the story, they now enjoy it that much more. You're really tasting the culture. And I think that is what we try to communicate with Tasting Notes from the Streets. But similarly, on the same side, and that's why it's, pairing a wine with a food that's representative of hip hop culture, you think about how is a food
Right.
familiar with hip hop culture. It's just hip hop is very New York, especially for me. And you think about what foods are synonymous with New York, like it's in the name, New York pizza, you know?
Exactly, right? It doesn't get much more New York than that.
And when and it's so, it's $1, it's cheap, it's on the go. If you grew up in the hood, you were definitely eating those NY slices. So what we try to do is attach to a piece of nostalgia, like in the culture, and that invokes like a certain emotion. Like one of the things that I try to focus on with every single piece of content is like my man Yusuf, our producer, he calls it the 3 E's: entertainment, emotion, and education. We try to make sure that everything that we do has all of those things. And
Right.
one way that you can immediately grab emotion is touching on that nuanced thing. It's that inside joke, that because you're a part of this culture, only the importance of a shape up in the hood, the lineup of your haircut. Like there's things that are specific and nuanced to a culture. And when you can show that something about that, it's that much easier for people to let you in. And that's really what it is a lot of the times.
And to connect with audiences.
Exactly.
Right.
Italian Wine Podcast, part of the Mama Jumbo Shrimp family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying about, entertaining, educating, and creating connecting emotion, like those are three elements, back to kind of one of the topics I open with about creating truly compelling and interesting video content, right? Is figuring out a way to tie in those three different elements. I think Italy too has an advantage here in the fact that Americans love Italy. They love all things Italian. We love pizza, of course, but
Absolutely.
I was in Italy this summer and I heard so many Americans everywhere I went, especially from New York and New Jersey. So we travel to Italy. We love Italian culture. We love Italian cuisine. You can find an Italian restaurant in pretty much every corner of the United States. So, I feel that Italy especially has a really unique opportunity with what you're talking about connecting with the consumer through culture and through place, right? There's a lot of people who might not know about a wine technically, but have they been to Italy? Maybe, right? More likely than not. So I think there's that huge opportunity. So let's talk just a little more technically about the content you're creating. What do you feel like is an ideal length for some of the content you're creating in terms of time, style of the image, and then also, as marketers, we know things are changing almost daily when it comes to the platforms. Like how are you getting your content out there to consumers?
It's a very good question. For us, I always say you have to just go hard on where your fans are. For us, I feel like a lot of our supporters are on Instagram, definitely there a lot. And we have worked very hard on building up our YouTube presence. That said, I do feel like Instagram's still a great one. Everything that you can put on Instagram, you can put on TikTok. So it just makes sense that if you're building one presence to build another. So many of these platforms use all like similar formats for sizes on the content. But I find that like shorter content always does better.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. We did an interview with Dave East, which we put on our YouTube maybe about a year and a half ago. And the interview did great. It had like 11,000 views on YouTube. And for us, that's like a huge jump. So you can really tell what type of audience he had. And again, he's one of those niche and nuanced artists that you have to know something about to really grasp. But we put out a short for him on Instagram the other day. The first one did like 27,000 in like 2 days.
Wow.
And then I put another one up, and then right now it's been like a week and it's almost at like 40,000 views.
Interesting.
But these are 1 minute clips.
Okay.
And that's just on Instagram. On YouTube, similarly, both clips are at around 1,000 views. So they grow so fast. It's just about understanding what videos are going to hit. But the other piece is like, you just got to put a lot out. That's really the thing. I mean, one of the things we're really going hard on this year is we're putting a lot more into our digital presence, just overall, like now starting to put out a lot more. The plan is to, by the end of January, be putting out like 27 pieces of content across all platforms.
Wow. Per day. That's impressive.
Per
That's a
day.
lot of work.
So, well, you know what it is? It's just cutting it up into micro content. You know, there's so many messages that we put across in a short episode. And our Tasting Notes from the Streets and Wine and Hip Hop TV episodes are generally, 10 minutes max. For a longer episode, sometimes we might go to like 12 to 15 minutes. But there's so much that happens within that.
Right.
Not everyone wants that entire thing. So splicing it up into micro content, you can post. And, when I say 27 times, it might be the same piece of content across like LinkedIn and Facebook and
Right. All different platforms.
and Twitter even, it's just making sure that you are putting it out there and cutting it up into micro content. Like, for me, that's what's been very useful. Understanding to tell a story, communicate your point as fast as you can.
Right. Yeah, I think that's key. And then also you can then break down the information. Like you said, you're telling so many different stories in, let's say, a 10-minute episode, and you can break that down into segments focusing on place, a segment focusing on the grape, etc., tasting notes, food pairings. All of that information can kind of be sliced down into more digestible, bite-sized information to feed to your audience.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us what's coming up for you this year. I know you've got some travel coming up, some travel to Italy, I hear. So tell us a little bit more about what's on the horizon for you.
Yes. Oh man, I am so excited about 2023. I mean, 2022 ended in ways that I didn't even know were possible for me. So, I always want to try to strike while the iron's hot, do more, continue to grow. I've always saw wine and hip hop as a global thing. So we are expanding our wings. We last year we hosted an awesome harvest party in Burgundy, and there's a bunch of different wine regions were interested in doing the same thing. So aside from just being back in Burgundy this year, you guys are actually one of the first to know, but we're also going to be in Champagne the end of May. Of course, there's Italy travel coming up, and pretty much everywhere that I go, you can plan on me doing content there. You can plan on me doing an event there. And, you can plan on me doing some other cool stuff. But now people could come along with.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
So that's going to be fun. But, also new things. The harvest party and showing what I did there was really just a part of me having more of a vlog sort of thing. So I am having a business vlog coming up, in search of the plug, where I am embracing more of that. People are going to find out why they call me the Wolf of Wine. Like people think it's like a fun Wolf of Wall Street thing. Like, nope. Not at all. Like, if you watch Pulp Fiction, that character, the wolf, that is who I was in the wine auction space. Like, when you had a problem that you didn't know how to fix, you called the wolf. And honestly, people would be nervous until they said, like, yeah, I called Jermaine. So they were like, okay, yes.
Yep, it's covered, right?
That was my reputation. You can, go ahead and do the math on that. But it was what I did, and I'm now starting to show a lot more of that. So things like me going to source wines, I'm going to be showing that in our new show, In Search of the Plug.
Very cool.
You think it's very similar to a mindset of people that I grew up around in the streets. It's the same exact thing. It's just, this is the wine business. So I think it gives people a great opportunity to see how the importance of like developing relationships,
right,
and how you relate to people. It's a matter of trust. When a winemaker decides that you are someone that they see fit to help them to communicate what they're trying to with this entire country.
Right.
So I wanted to show more of that, but also show the bones of the industry. People don't know what happens and how a bottle goes from the winemaker straight to your living room. So that's really
Yeah, I think that's going to be super interesting, giving people that behind the scenes look at what it takes to take something from, a small winery in Tuscany, right? And how it ends up on your table, like you're saying, and showing them all the behind the scenes.
it humanizes things. Like people need to see that it's not, maybe it might end up in a fancy restaurant. And sure, that's cool, but that's not what it's about.
Right.
It's just showing the versatility in who you are. I like to go to fancy restaurants, but that's not all I am, So I think that this show gives people the opportunity to get to know the people and what they are trying to communicate.
Yeah, and also tying in some of your background and experience, through Zachys and Wally's and all you did with logistics and operations and tying in, like when we speak about authenticity, right? And the content speaking to you, I feel like that'll be super interesting.
Definitely. This year is going to continue to evolve and get people to know me in a different way. I'll be tying back more into my music background. We have a series called Wine Bars. It's an online, we post these freestyles on Instagram, on all of our social platforms with me and some of my favorite rappers in a wine cellar, and they're spitting bars. So we call it Wine Bars. And each where we have our producer on deck, Arsonist from the Heatmakers, a multi-platinum production team. They produce for Dipset, Cameron, Jim Jones,
Wow.
Lil Wayne, Rick Ross. Like this guy has plaques all over the place, and he's going to be in a wine cellar dropping beats, and he's in the wine cellar dropping beats with the most amazing artists. So
That's so cool.
it's I'm just really, really excited about this year and, letting people get to know me a little bit better.
Yeah, lots of exciting things coming up. How can our listeners and, those working for Italian wineries or working in Italy engage with you and your work and connect with you?
Oh, definitely. I'm a very easy guy to find. Beautiful thing. You could literally Google search wine and hip hop. I'm certain that I will be the main thing there, but
I think so. Yeah.
but separately, connect with us on Instagram at Wine and Hip Hop Show. You can even email me, Jermaine at crewlovewine.com. This is really a lifestyle that I live. It's something that I'm passionate about communicating. I have lifelong friends in hip hop, of course, and people that I consider family in wine, and all of these connections were made through this. So this is really the ethos of my business, just trying to show people how similar we actually are.
Yeah, that's so important.
It's a lot of fun. So hit me up anyway. I'm here.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of inquiries and hellos after this. Hopefully not too many. Well, just to wrap up, Jermaine, I would love to quiz you a little bit and just to hammer home some of the things that we talked about. We covered a lot in today's episode, and you spoke a lot to us about the importance of connection through content, creating emotion, driving education, awareness, but all while doing it in an authentic way. But to hammer home a few of the relevant points for our listeners, I'll do a quick little quiz for you, and please answer in one sentence or less. This is a little rapid fire. Mm-hmm. We talked about bite-sized content, so that's what we're doing here. So question number 1, what content is performing best right now on digital platforms?
Dope visual content.
All right. Love it. Simple. Okay. Question number 2, what are the 3 most important parts to you of compelling video content?
Easy. Education, entertainment, and emotion.
Love it. I love the 3s. That's
I came in ready. This is amazing.
I know. I'm throwing you some softballs here. This one's a little more open-ended. You can have 2 sentences to answer this question. But what are 1 or 2 key things you can do to maintain your authenticity when you're representing other brands and cultures?
That is a great one. That's a good question. So I'd say I'd have 2 sentences. I have 2 answers. But the first is be as much of yourself as possible. in everything you do, not even just the wine and content. In everything you do, be as much of yourself as possible. Like when I decided to be more of myself, that was when I became more successful. As far as also maintaining your authenticity is, don't be afraid to look stupid. Let those insecurities go and just put it out there. Get it wrong. So
yeah, great advice.
don't be afraid to look stupid and be as much of yourself as possible.
I love it. That was a tough one to answer. Great job.
It was like you hustled me. You gave me a couple easy ones and then boom.
Well, thank you so much, Jermaine, for being with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show, and what a great conversation. And thank you again for being here.
No, definitely. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. And thanks again to all our listeners as well. Thank you for joining me today. Stay tuned each week for new episodes of Masterclass US Wine Market with me, Juliana Colangelo. And remember, if you enjoyed today's show, hit the like and follow buttons wherever you get your podcasts.